The dimly lit café hummed with the soft clatter of dishes and murmured conversations. Clara sat alone at a corner table, her fingers tracing the rim of her coffee cup, the steam curling like a secret she wasn't ready to share. She was 32, a graphic designer with a knack for seeing beauty in chaos, but tonight, her thoughts were a tangle of doubt. Her last relationship had ended in a slow unraveling. Her ex had called her too much, her intensity a burden. The insecurity clung to her like damp clothes, making her feel small, unlovable. Across the room, James leaned against the bar, his dark eyes scanning the crowd. He was a writer, perpetually chasing stories in the faces of strangers. He noticed Clara, the way her gaze flickered, unguarded, as if she were searching for something she didn't expect to find. There was a rawness to her, a vulnerability that drew him in like a melody. He approached, his steps deliberate but soft. "Mind if I join you?" he asked, his voice warm, not demanding. Clara looked up, startled, her instinct to retreat warring with curiosity. She nodded, and he slid into the chair across from her. "You look like you were solving a puzzle in your head," James said, his smile gentle, not teasing. "What's on your mind?" Clara hesitated. Her insecurity screamed to deflect, to hide, to offer a polished version of herself. But something in his eyes, steady, unguarded, made her pause. "I'm just wondering if I'm too much for people," she admitted, her voice barely above a whisper. The words felt like shedding skin, exposing something raw and tender. James didn't flinch. He leaned forward, his attention wholly hers. "Too much?" he repeated, not with judgment but with curiosity. "Tell me what that means to you." Her breath caught. No one had ever asked her that. Not like this. Not with genuine interest in the mess beneath her words. She spoke haltingly, about feeling like her emotions were a flood others couldn't handle, about the fear of being unlovable. As she spoke, she braced for him to pull back, to glaze over, to offer a platitude. But James listened. He didn't interrupt or shift uncomfortably. He nodded, his eyes tracing her words like they were a map to somewhere worth going. "That sounds heavy," he said finally, his voice low, "but it also sounds like you feel things deeply." "That's not too much. That's alive." Clara's chest tightened, not with the weight of insecurity, but with something warmer, something electric. His words weren't flattery. They were recognition. He saw her. Not the polished exterior she'd spent years perfecting, but the raw, vulnerable core she rarely let anyone glimpse. And he didn't run. "What about you?" she asked, her voice steadier now, a spark of boldness flickering. "What's something you don't usually share?" James's lips quirked, but his eyes softened, a crack in his easy confidence. "I'm terrified I'll write something that doesn't matter," he said. "I pour myself into words, but what if they're just noise?" His admission hung between them, fragile but honest, a bridge built from his vulnerability to hers. Clara felt the air shift, charged with the quiet power of being seen. It wasn't seduction in the shallow sense, no grand gestures or calculated charm. It was the pull of two people daring to be real, their vulnerabilities laid bare like an offering. Her insecurity, the voice that told her she was too much, began to quiet, drowned out by the simple act of his attention. They talked for hours, the café emptying around them. Each shared truth, her fear of being left, his dread of being forgotten, wove them closer, not because they were perfect, but because they were honest. When they finally parted, Clara felt a warmth she hadn't known in years. James hadn't erased her doubts, but he'd made her feel like they weren't a flaw. And that, she realized, was more seductive than any fleeting charm. It was the weight of being recognized, of being enough.